this video, the nature of transnational corporations will be looked into in detail. So, what is a TNC? There are a number of definitions of the transnational corporations which reflect their role in the global economy. But the most widely accepted position is that a TNC refers to a corporation registered in more than one country or has production operations in more than one country. According to Peter Dickens' 2011, a transnational corporation is a firm that has the power to coordinate and control operations in more than one country, even if it doesn't own them. How do TNCs operate or engage in the relevant activities? One option is that TNCs establish affiliates. So when it comes to affiliates, according to United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, a foreign affiliate is an incorporated or an unincorporated enterprise in which an investor who is resident in another economy owns a stake that permits a lasting interest in the management of that enterprise. So normally an equity stake of about 10% for an incorporated enterprise, or its equivalent for an unincorporated enterprise. Considering about affiliation in online retailing, affiliation is common in marketing and selling, where one company may affiliate with another to sell the products or services. And the seller has a website on which the affiliates may sell the products. For example, Amazon affiliates are called Amazon Associates, and these associates sell on Amazon's website, and Amazon takes a percentage of the sales price for its fee. Whereas in broadcasting, local TV stations are affiliates of a national network. So these local stations are locally owned, but they use network content and advertising. So these are good examples of affiliates. The next option is to have a subsidiary. A subsidiary is an independent company that is more than 50% owned by another company, which is usually referred to as the parent company or the holding company. So normally the parent company holds a controlling interest in the subsidiary company, and in cases where a subsidiary is 100% owned by another firm, the subsidiary is referred to as a wholly owned subsidiary. Some examples of subsidiaries are that example of a wholly owned subsidiary is Razer LLC, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of Uber Technologies. It was founded back in 2013 by Travis Kalanick and Uber as a subsidiary TNC to collect the income from ride sharing, leaving Uber to be a holding company that manages corporate issues as well as the research and development. So this kind of structure is commonplace in many industries, and therefore Razer LLC is a front for Uber, which separates it from Uber and protects it from any illegal, unlicensed, and practically uninsured services that might arise from ride sharing in California. So the Razer, as a subsidiary of Uber and the direct TNC management company, is liable for all ride sharing issues, and it actually has been evident from lawsuits against Uber and Razer. So how it and actually Uber uses many subsidiaries for many reasons, and as such it legally separates different aspects of its activities from the holding company through its many subsidiaries. Considering a breakdown of the many subsidiaries that Uber owns and for what purposes they were set up. First of all, Racer is the TNC subsidiary used in the US to manage the ride-sharing contacts between Uber and the drivers, effectively separating the driver contract from Uber since it was signed by the driver and Racer. whereas Unicorn is the subsidiary used by Uber to buy out Automoto, the company that now involved in the Waymo case, where Waymo claims that Uber stole secrets from Waymo when they bought out Automoto. And another subsidiary that Uber instated to deal with is Apparat International CV, which is a Dutch company which was set up to check Automoto's business practices and fund its operations before merging with it. Also, Uber Edged or Uber 8 is a New York-based subsidiary set up to deal specifically with Uber ride-sharing in New York, since they have different requirements to all other cities in US, and it has 29 subsidiaries in New York. And furthermore, according to Associate Professor of Management at Columbia Business School, Evan Rowley, Uber has to set up subsidiaries to manage local market ordinances, since each location comes with different sets of rules and regulations that require location-specific management. And this was even confirmed by Uber, stating that they operate in over 600 cities around the world, and each location demands a local specific or hyperlocal presence. The alternative way of managing the operations in a TNC is by engaging in a method of acquiring a controlling interest. This is mainly in terms of either a merger or an acquisition. When it comes to a merger is basically when two or more firms combine together their operations, whereas an acquisition is basically a takeover of a business. So there are various examples of mergers and acquisitions which have been very successful throughout the world. Considering a few examples of successful mergers, first of all, Disney and Pixar, where Mickey, Nemo, Pinocchio, Buzz Lightyear, Cinderella, all these were produced because of this merger. So the merger of this legendary Walt Disney and everything we create kids adore Pixar was a match made in cartoon heaven. And with the merger in 2006, the two companies could collaborate freely and easily. Considering on whether this merger actually worked, considering the successful movies that Disney Pixar has given birth to since, it is very obvious that this has been a really successful merger. The first Tangled movie and more recently Frozen have garnered huge attention at the box office and beyond. So this is a good example of a successful merger. Considering another successful merger, Exxon and Mobil. Big Oil got even bigger in 1999 when Exxon and Mobil signed an $81 billion agreement to merge and form ExxonMobil. Not only did this become the largest company in the world, but it actually reunited its 19th century former selves, John D. Rockefeller's Standard Oil Company of New Jersey and Standard Oil Company of New York. The merger was so big, in fact, that the FTC required a massive restructuring of many of Exxon and Mobil's gas stations to avoid outright monopolization. And still, ExxonMobil remains the strongest leader in the oil market with a huge hold on the international market and dramatic earnings. So, therefore, this merger was absolutely a success. And some even predict that after Shell's recent acquisition of BG Group, that ExxonMobil is about to make yet another big move in oil by merging again. However, there have been unsuccessful mergers also, such as Daimler-Benz and Chrysler, where in 1998 Mercedes-Benz manufacturer Daimler-Benz merged with US automaker Chrysler to create Daimler-Chrysler for $37 billion. The logic was obvious. That was to create a transatlantic car-making powerhouse that would dominate the markets. But by 2007, Daimler-Benz sold Chrysler to the Cerberus capital management firm, which specializes in restructuring troubled companies for a mere $7 billion. What actually happened was It was basically another case of corporate culture clash. That was because Chrysler was nowhere near the league of high-end Daimler-Benz, and many felt that Daimler strutted in and tried to control the folks on the Chrysler. So such clashes normally tend to undermine a new alliance, and combining that with dragging sales and a recession, with all of that, it became an unsuccessful merger. Good examples of acquisitions is IBM. Between 2010 and 2013, IBM acquired 43 companies for an average of $350 million each. And by pushing the products of these companies through IBM's global sales force, IBM actually estimated that it was able to substantially accelerate the acquired company's revenues, sometimes by more than 40% in the first 2 years after each acquisition. So this is a good example of acquisition which took place to accelerate market access for the target's products, the buyer's products. Another good example of acquisition is Procter& Gamble's acquisition of Gillette. The combined company benefited because Gamble had stronger sales in some emerging markets and Gillette had in others. Working together, they introduced their products into new markets much more quickly. And another example of a successful acquisition is Apple purchasing Siri, the automated personal assistant, in 2010 to enhance its iPhones. More recently, in 2014, Apple purchased Novaris Technologies, a speech recognition technology company, to further enhance Siri's capabilities. So, and also, even in 2014, Apple further purchased Beats Electronics, which had recently launched a music streaming service. One reason for the acquisition was to quickly offer its customers a music streaming service as the market was moving away from Apple iTunes business model of purchasing and downloading music. So these are all acquisitions done with a purpose and which have always been successful. And further, Cisco Systems, which is a network product and services company, they used acquisitions of key technologies to assemble a broad line of network solution products during the frenzied internet growth period, that is, during the period of 1993 to 2001, where Cisco acquired 71 companies. Why is it different to manage a TNC? When it comes to managing a TNC, it is a very different challenge than the management of a firm with solely domestic operations. The reason is because TNCs operate in many different geographical and cultural environments, whereas a domestic firm undertakes production in their largely familiar home market. So this can involve exporting to other countries, but TNCs generally operate in those geographical and cultural environments. So for instance, each national environment in which the TNC operates will have its own cultural identity, and in many cases, the language, tastes, and other intrinsic characteristics, primarily relating to the legal structure and polity, will be different. And to be successful on a global scale, the TNC will need to carefully adapt to each one of them while being mindful of its overall global strategy. So, this is a hectic task for a TNC. The second reason why managing a TNC is different is that generally strategic decisions governing the TNC's strategic direction will be made in the corporation's headquarters, which is usually based in its home country. And such decisions will be implemented across the TNC by appointed managers in foreign affiliates. So this is another situation where managing a TNC will be different from managing a domestic firm. Another reason is that TNCs will often encounter both very different indigenous competitors and, in many cases, familiar global rivals in the various international markets they operate in. So, dealing with these different competitive environments may require very different managerial strategies and responses. For example, the coffee chain Costa, they not only face competition from local coffee shops, but also from other major global retailers like Starbucks, Nero in the various foreign markets they operate in. And another example is throughout North America, Europe, and Asia. Toyota, which is a global automobile manufacturer, faces competition not only from Japanese car assemblers like Nissan and Honda, but also from other major players like Ford and General Motors, who will also have facilities in these regional locations. So, according to what Stephen Hyman 1976 suggests, such familiarity may lead TNCs to recognize their global interdependence and the global oligopolistic nature of their industry. So, while some TNC strategies may be tailored to respond to these competitive threats at the local level, these are likely to be part of the TNC's more generic global strategy. So, this is another situation where, or this is another reason that makes management of TNCs different from managing a general domestic firm.